This is for some friends of mine who have trouble changing their own strings. I thought I would show them what a spa day looks like. Now, normally this takes about 20 minutes, and part of the reason that it goes so quickly is I have my kit. I have my strings and my wire cutters and my little Mountain Dew bottle for my old strings and everything right here where I can grab it. So the first thing I do is loosen the strings. I just want to get them slack enough so that I can slide one of the wire cutters underneath them and take them all off at once. I don't really worry too much about the tension, and I usually take them off somewhere between the middle and the bridge pickup because that just lets me slide them out of the back of that fixed bridge and drop them into the Mountain Dew bottle. Then I unwind the other end of the strings, and because I put the strings on the way I do, I don't have to cut myself trying to untie them. I simply unwind and pull, and then I put them in the bottle with the little curly Q ends down and cut them to drop into the bottle. Now each guitar is different, especially when you compare an acoustic to an electric, but these little mini Squires tend to be pretty easy to work on. One of the unique things about this guitar is it has a maple neck, and so I've been told not to treat the neck with lemon oil or with a fretboard conditioner. So what I do use, this wax and wash, waterless wax and wash thing, and I do tend to use it all over the guitar. There is a coating of some type on the fretboard, and this helps me polish the frets as well as the lipstick pickups and all of the chrome and everything that's involved, and helps me get it pretty clean. It's a really simple thing to do. I was looking for my fret guards and couldn't find them, but I gave up after a few minutes. It wasn't easy to find. A pair of them is very helpful to have, especially if you're going to use the devil's steel wool. But since it hasn't been too long since its last spa day, this waterless wash and wax is a wonderful way to get the frets to look all shiny and be all clean. You can also use it on the headstock, on the body, on the bridge, on the tuning pegs. And while I've got the strings off, I check the tuning pegs to see if they need to be tightened down. These didn't happen to need tightened down, but the tuning keys were a little loose. I apparently missed them the last time that I was giving this guitar the once-over, and so I tightened down the tuning keys and then flip it over and check the back, making sure everything's still copacetic, cleaning off the tuning keys, cleaning off the neck and the back plate, going ahead and looking at the back of the guitar to see if it's got belt buckle syndrome or any of the scratches. It doesn't. Actually, these antique white or cream guitars, or Olympic white, or whatever they're calling it this week, they're pretty durable. Now, as with the Jazzmaster Mini, the second generation of the Squire Minis required an addition of strap buttons. I apparently didn't get them on that strongly, and so they've pulled loose a little bit. So I did go ahead and got the one at the heel, and now I'm getting the one up top. Just enough to make sure that they're snug. This one I'm actually working against myself so I don't over torque it and strip the threads of the screw. I hate re-drilling those. So you always want to remember, give yourself time. You've got plenty of it. This is a very relaxing thing for me to do. It's kind of my therapy, I guess, in some ways. So some would say that would explain why I have so many of them and why I change the strings so regularly. The strings that I'm going to be using are DR round wound strings, and that means they have to be put on a little differently. I'm just putting some pencil lead in the nuts so they'll slide easier. With the round wound strings, you don't want to cut them before you tighten them because especially with the wound strings, the interiors and exteriors will separate. So on your wound strings, your 6, 5, and sometimes 4, you want to make sure to go ahead and get tension on those before you cut them. Otherwise, you're going to be fighting tuning stability. Now, since this is not only a hardtail, but it's a non-string through, you have to bend the end of the string a bit in order to get it to poke through the saddle. Now, there are different people who have different attitudes about how far you want to go through. I usually go to the point where I can put my finger down on the fretboard at the 12th fret and pull the slack of the string up to my second knuckle on my middle finger. So, as one of my kids that watches these has pointed out, I flip people off quite a bit, but that's just kind of what I've done. Now, other people will take them one tuning peg further, or a tuning peg and a half, or two tuning pegs. My problem is I'm not very spatially oriented, so when I get to the B and the E string, the first and the second string from the floor, I have a tendency to really misjudge these. That method of putting my finger on the 12th fret and pulling the slack out of the string seems to have gotten me safe thus far. It also is a reminder for me to look down at the bridge and make sure that the string is going through the center of the saddles instead of just kind of flopping around, as a friend of mine says, all willy-nilly. Now, you may wonder why I'm using DR strings instead of the GHS boomers that I was using on the last rotations, or the Ernie Ball regular slinkies that I was using when the MGS first started. And it's really very simple. When I started off, I was very brand conscious using the Ernie Ball strings. And then there was a deal on the GHS. And then there was a deal on the DR. And then there was another deal on the GHS, but I haven't gotten rid of all the DRs yet. So the string that I favor tends to be whichever is cheapest, whichever one is the deal of the day, so to speak. And if you don't know what that is, well, then you don't surf the internet the same way that I do. So I do tend to shove the string through the hole in the post on these tuning pegs, and then I do the first wrap over the string, and then every subsequent wrap after that goes under. With the string trees, it doesn't make too much of a difference, but you don't want to have an overlap to your strings that are wrapping around the tuning pegs if you can help it. And you also want to have at least a full wrap, or maybe two. That'll help you maintain tuning stability. And with these wee beasties, you want to take every opportunity to maintain tuning stability. Now, without the spa day, without cleaning, without putting graphite in the nut, those types of things, I can usually change a set of strings in about 6 or 7 minutes, depending on the bridge. Each one of these minis is its own unique thing. The Squires have these surface mount hardtails. The CNZs are string through. The Harley Benton is string through with the saddles blocking the holes, so you have to push the saddles back against the bridge, and each one kind of has its own characteristics. And you just have to learn what those are. If you don't have 15, 20, 30, 40 guitars, it's really simple to learn how to work with yours. Some people believe that you should only really have one and learn how to play it, because you can really get a variety of sound out of one guitar. But I enjoy working on them too much. I enjoy changing the strings. I enjoy dropping new lipstick pickups in. I enjoy the fact that in 18 months I've burned through a couple of cheap soldering irons, so I finally had to go back and get a fairly decent one. I enjoy my little compulsions, my little control over the miniverse, my own little section of the world. I enjoy getting the guitars that aren't supposed to work well working well, getting them up to tune, and then what I enjoy almost as much as working on them, I have a chance to play them. And even though my bench rig isn't as elaborate as the one that's in the studio, I can still enjoy myself for quite some time. So I invite you to listen for a few moments. And if this helped at all, like, share, subscribe, comment, enjoy.